Think about the last time you said goodbye to someone you loved. Not a quick goodbye, a real one. The kind where you didn't know when you'd see them again. You felt it somewhere physical, in your chest maybe, or behind your eyes. You didn't choose to feel it, it just happened. Now think about your dog watching you leave for work, standing at the door, waiting. Sometimes for 8 hours. The easy answer is that's not love, that's attachment, that's conditioning. That's an animal that learned you mean food and safety and warmth. But the easy answer might be the most wrong thing we've ever believed. Let's start with the chemistry, because the chemistry is where this gets hard to dismiss. In 2015, a neuroscientist named Paul Zak, the same researcher who first mapped oxytocin's role in human bonding, ran a study on dogs. He took blood samples from dogs before and after they played with their owners. What he was looking for was oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, the chemical your brain releases when you hug someone you care about, when you hold a newborn, when you feel genuinely connected to another person. The dog's oxytocin levels went up by an average of 57.2% after playing with their owners. That's not nothing. That's the same chemical in the same biological context producing the same measurable response. And here's the part that nobody was expecting. When Zach ran the same test on the owners, their oxytocin levels went up too. Not because they triggered it, because the dog did. Two different species experiencing the same neurochemical surge at the same time because of each other. That's not coincidence. That's a feedback loop. That's something that looks biochemically identical to what happens between two people who love each other. But here's where it gets complicated. Oxytocin is not love. Oxytocin is a chemical that gets released in certain contexts. You get oxytocin spikes from gambling, from eating sugar, from winning an argument. The presence of the chemical doesn't tell you anything about the experience behind it. What we can measure is what's happening in the blood. What we can't measure is whether anything is happening on the inside. And that gap, the distance between chemistry and experience, is where this question lives. In 2016, a team of researchers at Emory University put dogs into an MRI machine, fully awake, fully trained to lie still. And they measured brain activity in response to two things: the smell of food and the smell of their owner. For most dogs, the owner's scent activated the caudate nucleus more strongly than the food. The caudate nucleus is the brain region associated with reward, anticipation, and positive emotional experience. In humans, it lights up when you see someone you're in love with, not just when you're hungry, when you see that specific person. The smell of their person outperformed food. Scientists were careful not to say that proved love, but they did say it suggested that dogs aren't just responding to you as a resource. They're responding to you as something that matters for its own sake. There's a word that keeps coming up in this research: attachment, which sounds cold and clinical, like it's designed to keep you from getting too attached to the idea. But attachment theory, in its original form, was built to describe what happens between mothers and infants, the deep, irrational, sometimes painful pull toward another being, not because of what they give you, because of what they are to you. And the more researchers study pair bonds in animals, in wolves, in elephants, in prairie voles, in crows, the more that word stops being a downgrade and starts sounding exactly like what we mean when we say love. Prairie voles are monogamous, genuinely monogamous. When two voles pair bond, they spend about 50% of their time in contact with each other. They groom each other. They sleep together. When one is stressed, the other stays closer. When they're separated, their stress hormones spike. When one dies, the survivor often stops eating. The brain of a pair-bonded prairie vole is chemically different from one that hasn't bonded. The reward system is literally rewired around the presence of that one specific individual. That isn't conditioning. That's devotion. But here's what's harder to explain cleanly. Dogs and voles and dolphins have brains that can produce these responses. What they don't have, or what we're not sure they have, is the ability to think about those responses, to step outside the feeling and know they're having it, to miss someone and understand the missing, to love someone and know they love them back. There's a philosopher named Harry Frankfurt who argued that what separates human love from animal bonding isn't the feeling, it's the reflection. Humans don't just love. We think about our love. We question it. We worry it isn't enough. We choose, consciously, to commit to it even when it's difficult. And animals probably don't do that. Probably. Which brings us to the piece of evidence that nobody has a clean answer for. In Amboseli National Park in Kenya, there is a well-documented case of two elephant matriarchs, named by researchers as Eleanor and Grace. Eleanor became sick in 2003 and collapsed in front of the herd. Grace immediately ran to her. She used her tusks to try to lift Eleanor off the ground. She pushed her, tried to get her to walk, stayed with her for over an hour. When Eleanor died 5 days later, members of at least 5 different elephant families came to visit the body over the following days. They touched her with their trunks. They stood around her in silence. Eleanor's own calf stayed with her body for 2 days and refused to leave. There was no survival benefit to any of this. There was nothing left to protect, nothing left to gain. Just something that looked, from every possible angle, like grief. And if there is grief, there was something before it that made grief possible. You don't grieve something you were never attached to. You don't mourn something that didn't matter. So can animals feel love the same way we do? Probably not exactly the same. The reflection piece, the conscious choice, the knowledge that you are loving someone, that might be ours alone. Or it might not be. We honestly don't know. What we do know is this: the chemistry is real. The brain activation is real. The behavioral evidence across dozens of species over millions of years is real. And the gap between love and whatever this is keeps getting narrower every decade of research. Here's what you already know, even if you've never put it into words. You've been on the receiving end of it. Whatever it is that your dog feels when you come home. Whatever it is that your cat is doing when they press their head against yours at 3 a.m. Whatever it is that made an elephant stand over a dead friend for 2 days and refuse to move. You've felt it directed at you from something that can't say the word. Maybe the most honest thing science can offer right now isn't an answer. It's permission to take seriously what you already suspected, that you are loved by things that cannot tell you so, and that the feeling, wherever it lives, whatever it is made of, decided you were worth staying for. It still does.